Well, this Sunday is Father's Day, and this is Steve Ridgel saying, I am a dad and a granddad, and I've got a son-in-law that's a really good dad, a son that's a great dad, and so I love fathers. I had a good father, had a great father-in-law who was like a father. But I want to tell you, this Father's Day is hard for preachers. Now, you're thinking, because they don't sit with their family and they've got church stuff. And no, that's just kind of the life of a preacher. Every profession has its things that are different and hard, and that's just life. But when you preach about fathers, there are some things that make Father's Day a little difficult. And we ought to recognize those. So I'm going to tell you the 5 things that make it tough to preach on Father's Day. One is there are people out there in your community of faith that are listening to you who had, bad fathers. They had fathers that abused them, fathers that neglected them, fathers that just didn't care, fathers that didn't love them, fathers that even acted against them. There's just a lot of people with horrible father scores. And when you get up to say Happy Father's Day or say something about fathers, there's a sharp pain in their heart because, they've never had a healthy relationship with their dad and probably not going to. And that's a hard thing. And they're sitting in that audience. Number 2, there are people out there that had dads that, maybe are better now and trying, but when they were growing up, they were too busy, or they didn't have their focus set right, or they were neglectful, or they were away from the Lord and didn't come. The kid was grown before the dad came back to Jesus and started trying to be a good dad, and they're sitting in that audience. And they're thinking, I wish my dad had been then what he is now. I'd be so much healthier, and that's probably true. There are people in the audience who never had a dad. There are people sitting in your audience who were raised by a single mom. Or there are a lot of single moms in the audience who just wish their baby dad had been a father, had married them, had stayed with them, had fill in the blanks. There's all sorts of people out there, women who are trying to be a mom and doing the best they can without a dad in the home. And that's tough for them to hear. And of course, there are people in the audience, this is their first Sunday without their dad. First Father's Day without their dad. And they may have had a really healthy relationship, had a great dad, and it was wonderful, but he died, maybe prematurely. There are people there that lost their father when they were teenagers. Or maybe they're grown adults, but still it's hard to lose your dad. And so they're sitting in that audience, and it's an emotional day for them. And then on top of all of that, we live in a culture that doesn't really value dads, that would say you don't have to have a father. You don't need one. And boy, when culture is kind of against something you're trying to talk about, that's hard. So there are lots of reasons that Father's Day is a difficult kind of minefield for preachers. Now, I know some preachers that go to extremes either way. I know some preachers just get up and act like everybody out there has a dad who's great, and I'm not sure that's a very realistic view. And I know preachers that get up and spend their whole time apologizing about what they're trying to say. Well, I'm not sure that's ever an effective way to preach, is to start off by saying, I know this will hurt some of you, so let me spend the next 20 minutes apologizing about what I really need to say. Don't do that either. Most preachers I know who are healthy about this just get up and acknowledge it. Hey, this is a great day for a lot of you. Your dad's here. Man, we're thrilled. We're happy. That's great. I know some of you, this is a hard day. Your dad's not here. Some of you had bad fathers. Some of you had, okay, I get all of that. I think that's how I personally do it. I acknowledge it, and then I go on and say what we need to say. But I just want you to know, this Sunday when your preacher's up there trying to talk about dads, he's aware of, and you need to be aware, there are people out there that's a hard subject. So be a little more sensitive. Hug them a little closer. Find your single moms and pat them on the back. Hug the people that have lost their dad. Pray for the ones that never had a good dad. And you'll find your Father's Day goes a lot better that way.